Alright folks, welcome back to the channel. We have a pretty cool video today. I'm excited about it. First of all, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and follow me on Instagram, duties_daggers. Thank y'all. So I recently sent a message out to some channels, some fellow knife channels we're in a group chat with, and I said, hey guys, would anyone be interested in doing kind of a tag video deal? I used to see him a lot back when I first started knife videos, or started watching knife videos, I mean. A channel would do a video on a topic and then tag a few other channels and ask them to do a video on the same topic. I think it's a great idea because if it's a good topic, and this one is, then people are interested in seeing other people's opinions on that topic. So you can watch one video from one channel and then go to the next one and watch the same, it's the same topic, but from another person's perspective. So I mentioned it to the group, and then Kev over at Lefty EDC had a great idea for the topic for this one, and it is sentimental knives. I think that's a great idea. Knives in your collection that have sentimental value. So I've picked out, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sentimental knives. We might throw in one more as well. And I'm going to kind of tell you the short little backstory behind them and why they're sentimental. And that's about it. Let's get into it. So, where should we even start? Let's start right... Well, yeah, let's start right here. The Ontario Rat Model 2. This was my very first knife. Now, when I say my first knife, I mean the first knife that I bought while I was just getting into the knife community. For the longest time, my whole life until a few years ago, I just carried whatever knife that I could find at Big Five or any sporting goods store for, usually under 30 bucks, maybe usually even under 20 bucks. And that's what I carried. I always carried a knife, but it was something like that. Then I started getting into the knife world. I kind of saw the wideness and the hugeness of the knife world. I didn't know there was even different blade steels. So I started learning. I started doing a lot of researching, and this knife here, I concluded, was widely considered to be one of the best budget knives, and still is, I believe, to this day, considered one of the best budget knives. So I watched a ton of videos on this, did a ton of research, and then ordered one. I believe it was the same price as it is now back then. I think it was like, I don't know, 35 to 45 bucks. By the way, I'm going to link all of these knives I talk about in this video down below if you guys want to go take a look at them. So I got this in the mail. I was so excited. My first knife that I actually did research on and chose and ordered, and I love it. I loved it then. I love it now. It's really a great knife. This one's in D2. You can also get them in AUS 10, but I think the D2 ones, at least I prefer. And there's also a Model 1. This is the Model 2. There's a Model 1 as well that's much bigger than this. I ordered one of the larger ones, the Model 1, soon after. But this one was always a little bit favorable, in my opinion. The big one was just almost too big. It was quite big. This was a perfect EDC for me. You can see it's got a lot of use. Pocket clip is real scratched up. Later in this knife's life, I ended up doing an acid wash on the blade and put a nice high polish edge on it. I don't use this knife anymore, but I will never get rid of it because this is what got me into the knife game, the Rat Model 2. It's got great thumb stud action still, just really good. An ergonomic handle, a choke up spot. This is kind of what made me fall in love with, choke up spots, being able to choke up and get nice and close to an edge. This is when I really found that I just love to be able to do that. So that's that. Now, another knife that was very early on in my knife collecting career, the OG QSP Penguin. Now, this is in the list for a little bit of a different reason, but it is still one of my first knives. I believe I bought this Penguin only a few weeks after buying my first Rat Model 2. This one I also researched quite a bit. This is the original version in denim micarta. This was my first experience with micarta, and just really, really loved it. And this is high quality micarta too. I mean, still to this day, I've handled a lot more micarta now. This is still some of the best, man. I'm serious. It's basically like jeans material. It's fuzzy. It feels great. This one's picked up quite a patina over time, and this one's also in D2. Now this came with more of a sheep's foot looking blade. It had this little hump right here, and that's why this knife is in the list. This was my first time modifying a knife. I was nervous to do it, even though it wasn't an expensive knife. I was still nervous to do it. I cut that hump off and made this a nice, sharp, angular edge right here instead of kind of rounded. Turned it into more of like a Warncliffe looking blade. And I actually added some jimping right up here, because what I was doing with this knife was doing a lot of cutting utility cuts on leather. I was doing even more leather work back then, and this was such a good utility cutter. Still is, but I use different knives now for that. But I put jimping because this is how I like to hold it. I would pinch it right here, put my pointer finger right on that jimping, and I would get a ton of pressure down on the tip and just do really, really nice utility cuts. So that started my journey into knife modding too. And I don't get crazy with it, but I do things occasionally. Cut in choils, do acid washing and some other kinds of stuff. So this is the first knife that really made me realize, hey, if you get a knife and there's something little like this that you can change, go for it, man. Make the knife exactly how you want it to be. So that's great. This is still a really good knife. I think they're only like $30. Just really well made. Great knife. Tons of versions of it now. But this was back when this was the only Penguin. All right, let's go back in time a little bit. This next one, this is a slip joint that was given to me. Well, it wasn't given to me. I grabbed this from my grandpa's house after he passed away, and I was looking through the house for something to remember him by. I found this on the shelf, and I immediately knew that I was going to take it. This knife was always on the shelf. My grandpa himself never carried this. This was always on his kind of knick-knack shelf. He had some old pictures, some kind of mementos, and this, among a few other slip joints, was always on the shelf. When I was a kid, I asked him about it. I was fascinated with this knife when I was a kid. He would let me take it down and open it and kind of play with it. Always supervised though, because I was quite little. Little too little to really own a knife yet. And he had told me that his grandpa had given this knife to him. So this is from my great grandpa. And it's, you can tell it's been used quite a bit. This one doesn't really have a tip anymore. It has 3 blades. You can tell this one has been sharpened quite a bit as well. And then we have this kind of, I don't know if it's really an awl or maybe it's like a pipe scraper or something like that. It's got kind of a chisel grind, so it's kind of sharp right here and it's pointy. So this was my grandpa's knife, who obviously got a lot of use out of it. I really love these scales. I don't know what material this is. Maybe some kind of resin or I have no idea, but it's really pretty. This knife needs work. You can tell that this scale is starting to lift up right here. I would love to get this restored someday. I haven't really wanted to touch it or tried to reprofile these just because I really don't want to mess it up. There is a marking on it. It says Kingston right down in there. If anyone knows anything about this knife, I would be very curious. Or if you know anything about Kingston knives. It might just be a very cheap knife. I have no idea. But This will never leave the collection. This is very sentimental. I'll put it right there. I'll put it right there. All right, another very old knife along the same lines. This is a fixed blade that was kind of on that same knick-knack shelf that this knife was on in my grandpa's house. This is from, I had relatives that moved into the U.S. from Finland. It was on my mom's side, her grandparents moved to the U.S. from Finland. So this is a traditional Finnish knife. You could tell if you are familiar with Finnish kind of art at all, you can tell these kinds of kind of spiky bits down here is very typical on Finnish art. Also this kind of, what you would call this, like engraving on the leather. It's just beautiful, man. Look at that. This knife is very old. I'm not sure exactly how old. On the other side, it's just, you know, very patinaed leather, very, very old leather. How you would hang it off your belt is just from this loop right here. Just hang it up from this little loop. Got some little tassels right here. There's an M. I'm not sure what it stands for. If anyone knows, let me know. And here is the knife. Check this out, dude. Wooden handle. Stainless steel little, what you call it, a bolster, I guess? I don't know. You can see the tang is peened over right in there, and it's kind of off center, which is interesting. But so it's a through tang, pretty long blade with a fuller on both sides, kind of a straight back design. It's not sharp anymore. I've never sharpened it. I think it's a very interesting knife. I don't know if it maybe was a fishing knife, maybe like a fillet knife, or just a hunting knife. I really don't know. But there's some very interesting engravings on it. Let's see if I can get it in the right light. And you can kind of see some across the top there, and then there's a name right down here. Let's see. I'm not sure how well it's coming across on the camera, but I should type that into a translator maybe and see. I can read it says Finland right there. This says maybe Matthew, possibly. And that's all I can really make out. But this is very cool. I don't use it. I never would. But, oops. It's just a cool thing, man. Very old knife from Finland. So, there you go. All right, moving on to some more modern knives. Let's talk about my first Spyderco. This is my first Spyderco, the PM2. And this was, at the time, the most money I'd ever spent on a knife. I think at the time this was something like $160 maybe, somewhere around there. I can't really remember. But this is an S45VN. And this was also, you know, the nicest steel I'd ever owned. And I gotta say, man, still to this day, Spyderco's S45VN is really, really good. This is still the factory edge that I've only ever just very religiously stropped, because I've used this knife a lot. And it's never chipped or rolled. I just strop it after every other use. And man, it's still sharp and it's still going. Pretty crazy. I bought this knife because what got me into the knife game was I came across a video of somebody reverse flicking a Spyderco. I had never seen a Spyderco before, and when you see someone do this and you've never seen it done before, it almost looks like magic. You're like confused as to how he opened the knife. If you've only ever seen anyone do this, slow roll or thumb flick, it looks crazy, man. You're like, whoa, dude, I need to get one of those knives so I can try that. And so I had to have a Spyderco. I bought this knife, and it was a big purchase for me. And I had it in the G10 for a little while, but I always knew that I wanted titanium on the scales, so that's what I did. These are from Flytanium. These are their flat, kind of classic titanium scales. and also a brass lanyard hole plug from Flytanium as well, and an MXG deep carry clip. This is kind of my perfect PM2, just monochrome, little hint of color with the brass S45VN, great action. This took a little while to break in, but you know, I was worried about it because back then I didn't know. I thought there was something wrong with it maybe. But I remember I watched a Metal Complex video where he said, just give it time. Just give it time. It will break in. And that's what I did. And it did break in. He was right. So this is a Spyderco I'll never get rid of. I still love it, but I really carry my Wharncliffe PM2 over this one nowadays. Because the Wharncliffe, I think, is just actually a better knife. But this is a classic, an absolute classic. Let's talk about another first for me in the knife world, the Sharp by Design Apex. This was, I think, around 300. Was it 375 bucks? Somewhere around there, and that's still a lot of money. But back then, I had never paid that much for a knife before. I still haven't that often, but I've done it a few times now. Back then, I had never spent that much on a knife before, but I was so in love with Brian Nadeau's designs, and still am, that I had to. I absolutely had to. I told myself I was going to get this knife, even if I had to sell a few knives to get it, and I did that. I sold my full titanium Benchmade bug out, and another knife, I forget what it was, and then some cash. I got this knife on the Reddit swap, and just insanely impressed with it when I got it. This one I got it had the smoothest action I'd ever experienced, the crispiest and best detent I had ever felt, the most just well-made knife in general that I had ever experienced, and it still is, man. This is, you know, Brian's designs are just absolutely nuts. The blade-to-handle ratio is unheard of. The hollow grind down here and the flat up here is just amazing. Such a beautiful design. And this kind of started my whole obsession with Brian's knives. Now I own, I think, 4. Yeah, 4. And I plan to absolutely own more in the future. And one of my ultimate knife goals is to own a Brian Nadeau custom. I will make it happen one day. I swear to you. It might take many years, but I will do it. All right, we got 2 more. Let's check out a knife that I made. This is the very first fixed blade that I ever made. And it's right here. Check it out. At this point, I've made, let's see, 1, 2, I've made about 6 fixed blades now, all different designs, and this was my very first one. And I think for a first try, it's really not that bad. My plunge grind is not very clean, especially on this side. This side's a little better. It's not a very wide bevel. I should have gone farther up here. I cut in a sharpening choil. I should have gone deeper on that. There's a lot of mistakes I made here, but I will never get rid of it because it's my first fixed blade. And I gotta say, man, it is very comfortable. It's pretty small, but I get a full grip on it. Super comfy. I cut in jimping up here. It really does feel very good to grip this knife. This is black linen micarta and brass pins. And I believe this is 5160. Yeah, this is 5160 blade steel. I made this all with a hand sander. You know, those hand sanders with like the 4x16 belt on them, those tiny little belts. I made this all with that. So it took a long time, and actually I still use it to this day. I don't have a 2x72 or a proper belt sander yet, so it takes me a lot of time to make these knives. I just don't have the proper tools yet. But anyways, this was my first one. It actually cuts really well. I did a pretty good job on the heat treat. The edge retention probably is somewhere around like what 440C would be like. So not incredible, you know. 5160 can have much better edge retention than that, but you know, obviously I didn't get my temperatures right or whatever I did. That's why. But yeah, I think for my first try, this is really not too bad. I don't have a name for it. It's just my first knife, and that's it. All right, last one. This one here is sentimental to me because it was a gift from a good buddy, Mr. Diener. Diener. You guys probably recognize that name if you follow my channel. He has his own channel now that he just started recently called Genetic Modified Viking, and you should absolutely go subscribe to him because he's a great guy with a great collection, and a good reviewer, good talker, just an overall great guy. So I first started talking to Diener when I had first started the channel. I think he was in one of my lives. He started commenting on my videos, and we just started talking on Instagram. We messaged each other quite a bit, and we still do. Man, I talk to him every day. I was thinking about it the other recently. I talk to that dude every day. I talk to him more than I talk to my dad, and he's just a really good buddy, man. Very good dude. Kind of just an example of the knife community and how awesome it is. You know, I had just met him, and he decided to send me a gift. He sent me this knife, the Finch Holiday, and this is an incredible knife. This is my favorite Finch, at least out of the ones that I've tried. Detent is amazing. It is glassy, smooth, very classy knife. I've carried this knife on Christmas, on Thanksgiving, any time where I want just a very nice, classy knife, I will carry this. This is the red micarta version. The inlay is done perfectly. This shield is perfectly inset in there. It's a stainless steel frame lock with a titanium clip and 154 cm hand rubbed satin blade. Wicked Warncliffe. This is such a cool looking knife, man. Just so classy. Incredibly classy. So I'll never get rid of this because it's a gift from a very good friend, and I'm just really happy to have made a good friend in Mr. Diener. We have a lot of cool collaboration videos in the works, and we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff together on YouTube. So stay tuned for that, and don't forget to go subscribe to him. And that's about it. These are my most sentimental knives in the collection. Thanks for watching, guys. I am going to tag a few people to do this video next. I'm going to tag Jason from Puerto Rican with a Knife. Mr. Jason, I would like to see your most sentimental knives. And let's tag Diener. Let's tag Mr. Diener, Genetic Modified Viking. I would like to see his most sentimental knives. It could be top 5, top 10, however many you want to do. And again, thanks to Lefty for this great idea. And yeah, I can't wait to see these other videos from these other folks. Thanks, guys. I will see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Adios.